the last 15 minutes. End up on. Great. We have a quorum present. I am going to open the meeting. It is now 7:03. The meeting is open. Unfortunately, I have to read the executive order, which is lengthy, but I'll read it. An executive order from the Governor of Massachusetts relieves public bodies from the requirement in the open meeting law that meetings be conducted in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, provided that the public body makes provision to ensure public access to the deliberations through telephone, internet, or satellite, audio or video conferencing, or any other technology that enables the public to clearly follow the proceedings of the public body in real time. In addition, all members of a public body may participate in a meeting remotely. The open meeting law's requirement that a quorum of the body and the chair be physically present at the meeting location is suspended. All other provisions of the open meeting law, such as the requirements regarding posting notice of meetings and creating and maintaining accurate meeting minutes, as well as the limited enumerated purposes for holding an executive session, remain in effect. That's the executive order. I will announce that we'll do the vote. We'll do it via roll call vote. I will call out the names of the members and they can record their vote. I'm going to ask that the Conservation Commission members identify themselves at this point in time, so the other participants know who we are. I am Ron Vallette, the chairman. Adam, raise your hand. And by the way, there is that reactions button lets you raise your hand if you hit that button, and it's visible on the screen to everybody else.
Adam Weinberg, Vice Chair.
Dan, is Dan here? Dan Scorpa? I don't see him.
Pat Seckler, hi.
I'm just trying to record this, so.
Charlie Keisch, hello.
John Scorpa,
Bob, you're here,
Bob Dolan, member.
and Shep is here. Dan is not here, correct? Do you know, John, if he's coming in?
I'm really not sure. I just got in from shoveling snow myself.
Okay.
Is that Holly there?
Holly's here somewhere. I saw her.
I am here.
Hello, Holly.
I'll stay mute. Nice to see Pat Seckler and Bob Dolan and Adam, people I've known for a while.
Okay, I'm going to go to the first item on the agenda, which is review and approval of the minutes of the February 9th meeting. We cannot vote on those minutes. I just received them a few days ago. I have not had a chance to finish reviewing them, so I'll have to defer the approval. There is the recording of that meeting on the Richmond website. I guess it's the Board of Selectmen, but anyway, our town administrator, without my knowledge, I don't think any of yours, they've decided to post the tapes or the recordings of these meetings on the websites as they are public information, even though they're not the cleanest way to review the minutes, because like our last meeting was 3 hours, but there's probably not that much to be in the minutes out of that meeting.
Well, Ron, I will say, Ron, you're very photogenic in those videos because I just clicked on one earlier.
Scratching my beard, right? Okay. Anyway, they're going to be apparently posted on the website from here on out. And eventually the written minutes, when they're done, will be posted too after they're approved. But as of right now, the written minutes are not reviewed by myself. Shep has reviewed them, I guess, but I haven't finished reviewing them. So we can't vote on them. The next item, so that takes care of agenda item 1. So Next, the next item on the agenda is agenda item 2, which is the notice of intent. EP file number 271 dash, a number just got sent in today. I just received the DEP letter today, and I think it's 217. But anyway, we have a notice of intent from SWCA Environmental Consultants on behalf of Sonia and Raymond Kurzweil, property at 178 Perry's Peak Road, map 402, lot 6.2. The proposed work consists of managing nuisance phosphorus levels through the use of aluminum sulfate, alum, within the existing fire pond during the spring of 2021 and over a requested 5-year term through 2025. The goal is to apply the alum, which binds phosphorus to the bottom of the pond and prevents eutrophication and algae blooms. We have a representative for Kurzweil here. Is Mrs. Kurzweil here herself? I think I see her.
Yep, I'm here as well. The applicant representative from SWCA.
Okay, would you like to present your case to us at this point?
Sure,
I
thank
can
you.
share the screen if you want to show anything.
Okay, great, will do, thank you. First off, good evening, everybody. My name is Jess. I work for SWCA Environmental Consultants. I'm a natural resource project manager there. I handle a lot of the permits out of our Massachusetts offices. So I guess before I start my presentation, I just wanted to state that the kind of objective for this evening, because we just received the file number with some comments, and Shep had kindly offered to provide us some additional like copies of previous applications that have come for this property. I'm going to briefly present the project and just kind of collect any additional questions or concerns. And then once we receive the other documentation, we're going to provide the answers in writing to you and the DEP, and kindly request a continuation to the next meeting afterwards. So just because we don't have all the answers at this time.
I can understand
That's
that
okay.
since the letter didn't come in till today, so.
Yeah, no worries. So I'll share my
your
screen, but I
problem.
just wanted to kind of set the objective there.
Appreciate that.
So briefly, I'll share.
Do you want to present the project at this time, or you want to, hold on a second.
It's up to you. I thought we would, it's a fairly straightforward scope of work. The applicant has been before you multiple times over the years as good stewards of the pond on their property. At this time, they're just proposing to limit from previous scopes of work, just the use of as needed alum applications to help prevent algal blooms that have been a persistent issue over the last several years. So I'm happy to share my screen, look at some of the photos, and again, just answer any questions, any outstanding supplemental information at this time, so we can ideally move the project forward at the next meeting.
Okay. Shep, would you like to summarize? You handled the previous permit. You did all the inspections and site inspections for the certificate of compliance for the last permit on this pond. You have a couple things you'd like to say to start with?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
The most recent work on the Kurzweil's fire pond, we think of it as a fire pond. That's how it was originally classified. And there is a dry hydrant in the pond, which I believe the fire department is aware of and has from time to time has taken a look at it. The most recent thing was the removal, it was a fairly big project, removal of the benthic barrier, which had been put into the pond years ago in order to mitigate against the incursion of aquatic weeds in the pond. Now, this is before the Kurzweils owned the property. It was before modern day record keeping in the conservation office. And it's going to take a little digging to get back to the original construction of the pond and determine whether or not there was a notice of intent filed to create the pond in the first place, which is one of the questions that Mark Stinson raised. But going to go do a bit of a record search and share that information with SWCA and facilitate their responding to Mark Stinson, who by experience is not an unreasonable guy. I mean, you know, if there aren't records, there aren't records. But he would like us to take a look and see what we can find.
You know, when that property was subdivided out of that major piece of land there that used to belong to the Morses?
I have no idea.
Maybe it's under a different address. Maybe that's what, you know. I don't know how old this house is. Do you, Sonia? Oop. Guess she's not on board again.
You're on
She
mute,
may be
Sonia.
muted.
You're on mute.
Okay. The property, the house was built in around 1979, and the pond was, I think, created in 1980. And apparently there aren't records from the original creation that anybody, I think, is aware of. We have a lot of extensive documentation to the 2006 work that was done at the pond and with a previous owner, and more recently, our work with ESS, their proposals and notice of intent to sort of clean things up, and that dates to 2014 and 15. And they also did an extensive amount of, you know, studies and so on. And Shep has all those records. He has I think you have the records from 2006 and 2014, 15. So all those documents are there, as is the certificate of compliance, which we got last year. As I understand it, we're being requested to do some kind of wildlife habitat evaluation. Is really, I think, the crux of it at the moment.
Yeah, I understand that. And because he's claiming it's not really a limited project for some reason, and I don't understand. I just saw that today, so we have to look at
Honestly,
that.
I don't understand that either. And how is it? It wasn't the previous project of sort of a limited restoration project. Aren't they sort of along the same vein? So why are they asking for additional evaluations now? I guess that's sort of my question. But
I think, Shep, I think you'll have to answer that because you were involved in the previous one, and I don't know if DEP had comments on the previous one along the same line or not. So I guess we'll leave that as to you as an action item on that to sort that one out. But I have questions too. But Shep, do you have any more to say on the old project?
No, not right now.
Okay. Let's move along then, and I'd like to ask one question. I think I understood that the last project also applied alum to the pond. Did it work?
yes, well, yes, that a part of our permission was to use various treatments, and so there was a round of herbicide and algicide a couple of years back, and then last year we tried the alum, and yes, it seemed to be quite successful.
Okay.
So yeah, we had permission to use herbicide and algicide, but we also tried the alum last year, and
Yeah.
we really just want a continuation of that part of our previous orders. But I think we had to do a whole new NIO for it, NOI for it, and that's what Jess is helping us with.
Yeah, understand.
Yeah.
So my question was, did it work? And you're saying it did.
Yes. Is that what you said? You asked, did it
Yeah,
work, right?
It
Yeah.
worked the last time.
I think it was pretty successful. Yeah. Yeah. Compared to
Okay,
previous years,
A few other questions. I'm speaking in terms of the best way to solve problems like this is to prevent them in the first place. So what, have you determined where the source of all this phosphorus is? I mean, there's options relative to surface water or groundwater or leaky leach fields or whatever. Do you know where this phosphorus is coming from?
No, I really don't.
Oh.
I mean, I think it's just biomass that sort of accumulated over years or something
Yeah.
along those lines. It's a small pond, it heats up. I don't know, maybe Jess can speak to that.
Yeah,
or-
Yeah, and that might be something that when we look through the previous applications, and I know there's been some reports submitted by ESS. When we address the comments, we could always kind of do another thorough look through and see if we can find some potential some sources for
There any-
eliminating outside of alum.
Is
Yeah,
there
'cause-
any agriculture around that pond
Pardon?
or nearby?
Not for some time, but there might be some legacy phosphorus, I think. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I'm thinking if they used different fertilizers and things years ago, maybe it's still,
I don't think fertilizer. I'm not sure, but there were cattle or something, I think, on this property, maybe, I don't know, 50 years ago.
Yeah, well, I noticed the stream, the intermittent stream, the minor stream that crosses your driveway and enters this pond, which is the feeder for the pond, from what I understand,
Yeah.
comes from another property, which is an open field, and I don't know if they're using phosphorus-based fertilizers on it or what?
We ruled that out.
Oh,
and
you
I
did
don't
rule that out. Okay.
That,
Are you using phosphorus-based fertilizers on your lawn?
absolutely not.
Okay,
No.
good.
Just, no, we got lots of weeds, but
Yeah.
no, we don't use any. We're not doing any of that.
So the only source could be basically the, direct runoff from maybe up in the woods above there or from the lake sediment or groundwater inflows or
Yeah.
where's your leach field there?
Down the hill.
Down the hill? Okay, that answers that question.
Yeah.
So there's no known source for that stuff to take a preventive measure, to prevent it in the future.
Yeah. There were a lot of invasives, growing around and lots of decaying cattails and so on. And the benthic liner, I don't know if that could have been a source of, I'm not sure.
I mean, you took that Bethnic mat out of there, you
Yeah.
cleaned out underneath it, I assume. Maybe Shep can tell us that. I don't, you were there.
Took it out, when was that, Shep? 2019, yeah. August 2019. So, I mean, if it wasn't beneficial, it had plenty of time from 2006 to, create problems.
So you don't know if this was a source that you could control.
Well, it's gone now, so
Pardon?
it's gone now, we removed it.
Oh, no, I understand that, but the phosphorus is still coming in and still creating problems. So you're saying you need to treat it with the.
As of 2019, we don't have much of a sample at this point because we did the work in 2019, sort of at the end of the summer. And then last summer we treated with alum and we had a pretty good response. So, suggested to me that if we keep, doing what we're doing, we'll, create a healthier pond.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, that we haven't had a time when in between when there wasn't an alum.
Okay. And that treatment will not affect the indigenous vegetation that's there, the cattails or the bulrushes or whatever? Is it going to kill that too, or what is it going to do?
Well, Jess, do you want to speak to that? No, I don't think so.
No, it shouldn't have that kind of an impact on it. It's really just designed to help prevent and bind the phosphorus levels to the bottom of the pond. So there shouldn't be impact to any bank, vegetation, or submerged.
Yeah. Have you tested the water to see if there's phosphorus in it right now?
I think the last
It is
water
something that-
testing was a couple years ago.
When you treat it with this alum, this is another question. Is that gonna bind to the phosphorus and settle right down, or is there a chance it could flow downstream out of that weir, through that weir or over that weir? Is it gonna stay in the pond or is it gonna flow downstream?
I could look into some of like the weights related to that. I know there's some documentation in like the gear for the state and provide that in the written comments response.
Is that could take the phosphorus with it, or would just be the alum?
I don't know that answer offhand, but I
Okay.
could respond to that.
I consider that a question from me
Sure.
anyway.
Absolutely.
And let's see.
Observing last summer, we had the alum treatment in May. You know, everything seemed quite normal in the pond with frogs and fish and all that.
Okay, that's good.
And also, there is precedence for using alum in some of the fire ponds, I think, in Richmond.
Understand.
Is that right?
I'm the prevent a problem in the future type person here, and that was the inflow into the pond, which you seem to have addressed. But this outflow goes downhill, and I don't know where it goes into. It may just disperse in the
Well,
field down below, but
yeah, it goes into our woods.
okay, it just disperses there. It doesn't flow through the woods. Okay,
Yours to go to the edge of the woods. There's a, there's an outflow, I guess it's called.
so it's not leaving the property then. Okay,
I don't think so.
all right. And you're saying you're not using phosphorus-based fertilizers on your lawn or anywhere there.
No.
Did you do water temperature measurements? Are they, it's not a very deep pond, so it might warm up faster than a large pond, I suppose, and that can create some
Yeah,
problems
we
too.
have, what do you call those water depth studies? We did that. Yeah.
Okay.
It-
All right, I don't have any more questions. Does anybody else on the commission have a question?
Oh, just a statement. I work for Sonia, so I can say that the pond is very healthy. We've been in the pond to clean it out by hand of some of that algae. And boy, it's hopping with giant bullfrogs, the size of which I've never seen anywhere else. I don't know, maybe that alum is enlarging them, but it's a happy pond.
No, the pictures look very good. It looks like a nice little pond. I remember it before they did the benthic thing. I took a look at it once and it was not as good, not as nice. Anyway, any more questions from anybody else?
Well, I'd like to ask if anybody does understand algae and what seems to, cause algae blooms like the ones we've been having, because we've been scratching our heads on this for 7 or 8 years to try to figure out the cause, and it just seems very elusive.
That's why I asked the questions about prevention there, that's,
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, I think that's a kind of a question that a lot of people have been asking, and it's not an easy answer to that.
a lot of ponds in Berkshire County are asking that same question. It's
Yeah,
basically water temperature and nutrients
yeah.
that create the algae problems. That's why fertilizers are no
Yeah.
near those ponds. Anybody else on the Conservation Commission?
No questions, Pat.
Okay,
Thank you very
I'm
much.
gonna make,
Oh.
does any of our public and residents have any Questions on this particular application? Then I'm gonna make at the request of, and I would have made it
I
anyway.
just have one, I just have one, Ron.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Where are
just,
you?
as long as Holly's on, I just wonder if she has any recall of the permitting of the building of the pond, since she would have been the chair during that time period of the Concom, and maybe that can help us in our investigative work.
Well, that pond was built in 1980, am I correct?
Yes.
That was even before your time, Holly, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I remember the barriers going in. I remember doing permitting that involved that, but other than that, I don't remember. There were, the Shaws had horses on that farm. But I
Okay.
think the barn where they kept them is downhill, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
As I remember, it's well downhill of the house and the pond.
Yeah.
It's just a little
Okay.
fire pond. And I don't know as we ever knew the history. I don't remember the history in terms of whether it was just dug out because of groundwater springs or what, but it is very shallow. And as Ron said, warmth and heat and sunlight, that's in shallow pond.
Well, yeah.
That's gonna cause algae blooms.
The other,
It's deep in the middle. It's not, it's not like a 3-foot pond all around.
Yeah, I can attest to the fact that it gets, I don't know, maybe it got deeper over the years, but
No.
we were walking around in it, and if you start to move towards the center, it drops off. It's very soft down below. So
Yeah.
you sink in to that muck, which is a good, 10, 12 inches, maybe even more, almost to the point where you get a little worried about the fact that you're not going to be able to walk out.
Quicksand.
And so we didn't get to the center. I'm sure it gets, it probably gets up to about, my guess would be 8 feet, maybe 8 to 10 in the center.
Yeah. We have those numbers somewhere. There was a whole study done. I just don't recall them at the moment. I think.
Well, the NOI mentioned something about 6 foot deep.
Yeah, that's like the average, based on the other calculations. I believe it's, at the deepest, it's 10 feet, but the average is 6. So
Okay.
like right around that.
All right, then I'll make a motion that we continue this meeting until I think it's March the 9th. And hopefully you'll have the answers for DEP and us at that time. And
Yep.
Questions we asked and DEP asked.
Mhm.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Second,
All in favor via roll call? Adam seconded. Bob?
I was on mute.
Oh. Bob, can you take yourself off of mute here? Or I can do
Aye.
it.
Bob,
Harley,
Aye.
Pat,
Sounds good.
John,
Aye.
Ron, I, and Shep.
Shep's on mute. There you go.
Aye.
Thanks, Shep. Okay, that particular NOI has been continued till the next meeting. And let me
Excellent.
dig out.
Thank you. I'm gonna sign off. Have a good
Okay.
night.
We'll
Thank
get
you.
there.
Sonia?
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Sonia. Just before you go, this is Harley. Thanks for attending. But do you have a neighbor, Jeffrey Morse?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Jeffrey was on the Concom during the time period when in 1980. So maybe he has a recollection. Might get some detective work done there about the creation of that pond.
Some of the just regulations that all the documentation and permitting and all that, a lot of this just got created in like the 1970s, right?
Well,
I think we're dealing with like the Wild West of,
with some contractors, you are, yes.
Hopefully they had things, pretty well tackled by 1980, and your neighbor was on the committee during that time frame. So maybe he has recollection. Give us a way to find those documents.
Sonia,
yeah.
I would also add that Jeffrey Morse is the son of Tommy Morse, who built your house.
Oh, I know.
And Tommy was the son of Darwin Morse.
Okay.
So I would ask Jeff. He's lived there all his life.
I'm sure he's got this.
Been in his family all the lives. He'd know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's got the story. I don't know if he has any actual documents, but I'll talk to him now. I will. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your careful attention to our pond.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 3. Request for determination of applicability from Theodore Miller, property at 950 West Road, map 407, lot 23. The applicant seeks to construct a new gravel driveway branching off an existing gravel driveway in a buffer zone to reach a residential house site outside the buffer zone to the west. This is continued from the January 9th, 2021 meeting. And who is here to represent the applicant for 950 West Road? Is there anybody here? Oh, by the way, before I forget, I just noticed Clarence Fanto of the Berkshire Eagle is recording this meeting. He's getting a recording. What he'll do with it, I have no idea. Is there any representative of the applicant at 950 West Road? In that case, Shep and I think Harley have some information to disclose. We've done some research on that property. Shep and I did a site visit back, I think, on January the 7th before the last meeting, but we were a little confused by what was being asked for and the documentation being provided. So we continued it at the January 12th meeting.
Ron, if I may, I do have some things to add.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I had a conversation with Mike Kulig of Berkshire Engineering. They had compiled a plan to reflect the driveway that was there, which was for planning purposes. It was not for permitting specifically. No, that was not Mike Kulig. I'm sorry, I take that back. It was Mark Folk.
Shep, you're a little
from Foresight. And the plan that was attached. I'm what?
You're a little distorted, so.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but a little distorted, so maybe step back a couple.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, Mark Volk recalled that they had compiled this plan, which was attached to the request for determination, but he noted that the plan included work in the riverfront area, which I checked today on Muni Mapper, and it absolutely is in the riverfront area. And I think under the circumstances, it's probably going to require a notice of intent.
Understand. Harley has some additional information. He pulled some GIS material. If you're willing to show it to us, maybe it'll clarify it for the rest of the commissions, because nobody other than Shep and I have been on that site. And Harley, I'm going to share the screen. If you want to show what you have. It's shared.
You're on mute, Harley.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Now we can.
Okay,
Now
great.
we can.
So hopefully you're seeing my screen and this diagram here. Hopefully I can get it to do what I want it to do. Let's see if that works. How's that? Can everybody see that clearly?
It needs to be blown up a little bit.
That's as big as I can make it.
No, is that right?
Yeah. So I don't know if this is going to work well, but
You can use your fingers to make it bigger. Pinch it like if you got an
it's
iPad
not.
or
It's
something.
not on a. It's not on that kind of thing. It's on a. Let's see if I can. It's full screen in my. Let's see if I can get it to do what I want to do. How is that? Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, so what you're looking at here, you follow where I'm running my mouse. That's West Road. If you were to come down West Road down here, you would end up very shortly on Route 41 State Road. This right here is the river in question. This is Furnace Brook that comes down through these properties. It goes under a big culvert here, which I guess in the past has caused some problems. So what are we looking at? There's a parcel 4, there's a parcel 5, and then there's this parcel 6 up here. The 950 is parcel 5. This belongs to Mr. Mahler. Parcel 4 is a property that's owned by Jeffrey Daigle. And parcel 6 is owned by Jose Pena. They were all sold their properties by Pocara Trust. This is Key Hollister is the name of the person who's the trustee of that trust. So Pocara has sold all 3 of these properties now. The first one that sold was parcel 4 to Jeffrey Daigle. That was in 2007. Then Jose Pena purchased his parcel in 2019. And then parcel 5, the 950 West Road parcel, was sold in 2020. When the first parcel was sold out of this subdivision, there was the first deed created with this scheme for a shared driveway that's drawn on this contemporary diagram. So this diagram, if you note, was approved here by the planning board in 2007. And that would have been just about the time Jeffrey Daigle was going to purchase this. In his deed, and then the subsequent deeds that were given out for parcel 6 and parcel 5, each of those deeds has the same easement language that provides them access to their properties via this shared driveway system. So that's the first thing to know. So they all have easement rights against this driveway. They also have responsibilities to share the cost for maintaining and upkeep of this driveway, shared driveway part. What's the issue? So when this was originally permitted by the town, and it looks like there were, if you look down here, the Richmond Wetland Bylaw Order of Conditions was given. We haven't seen that yet. We don't know what that looks like. But essentially, this work went forward. And right here, you have this area right in here. This is all wetlands. This is all primary resource. And because that's a primary resource, this is running right along in the buffer zone beside it. And it always has been. It makes a kind of a sweeping turn here and ends up, if you were to look at a modern map, it would end up at Jeffrey Daigle's house. They also, at the time, did some rough road work on this part of it, as far as I can tell from satellite diagrams. So that's kind of the situation. You've got all of this in the wetlands buffer zone. It's also within, as Shep just told us, it's within the 200-foot river protection area from this brook. And I I don't know. I wasn't on the site visit, so I haven't seen the condition, but I understand there's been some subsequent work done since the house was sold, or the middle lot was sold to Mr. Mahler. And I guess probably Shep and Ron could fill in that information.
Well, I did send out an email to the team earlier today with the pictures that were taken back on January the 7th, I think it was. It showed clear cutting right up through the buffer zone, and there is a foundation for a house.
So this is what, I don't know if you can make this out, guys, but I'm going to try to blow this up a little bit. This is what we were sent for, out with this NOI, and you, or I guess is it an RDA or an NOI?
RDA.
An RDA. And so you can see where it shows this existing, common shared driveway that's existed since 2007. And then this was their plan to extend that driveway up to a new house, Mr. Mahler's house up here. And you can see this is all, this says bordered BVW here, but I'm not sure if it's really BVW or primary resource. In any case,
it's a deciduous swamp on the GSI.
Yeah, I mean, so this is probably a primary resource. So this is clearly in the buffer zone. And so is this going to be this new section of it? There's this proposed well that's going to be in the buffer zone.
The well is actually in.
Or
In
is
the
it-
picture I sent you today.
Yeah. So that's that's the kind of situation on the ground. You have any questions about what we're looking at here, or it's pretty clear, it seems to me, what's there now. Ron, can you fill in on for us which parts of this property have been clear cut now?
It's been clear cut right up. Can you see my cursor?
No.
Okay, hold on.
So I'm hovering by the house here with my cursor.
Yeah, well, come back down to where the driveway splits in the
Down
buffer
this way?
zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
This has all
whereabouts?
been cleared all the way up to the house foundation.
So all of this has been cleared out. This whole area,
Well, the road has been cleared.
the road has been cleared.
We're not sure if it's a road or just a utility access.
Hmm.
And there's nobody here to tell us that. And there wasn't nobody here in the last meeting to say what that was supposed to be.
So, I guess we'll have to wait and hear what they have to say.
Shep, do you have any more on that? Because you're talking to Forsyth on it, and are they going to give us
Yeah.
something?
Well, Forsyth, Mark both made the point that, number one, Forsyth had not given any authorization for them to use the plan as part of a permitting document, number one. And number two, there's no mention in there of riverfront resource area having been delineated. And that includes work that was done on the original driveway that goes into lot number 4.
Yeah.
It struck me that in order to get a handle on it and sort of nail it all down and get some conditions on it that are enforceable going forward, that it's probably in order, it's probably mandated because it's riverfront, that there be a notice of intent prepared and an engineered plan of where things are relative to the resource area.
And I agree, because this plan does not show all this swamp down here. It doesn't show a buffer zone of any sort on this particular drawing that's there. And
Right, I think this was a plan probably, Ron, that was prepared, for the planning board, maybe. It certainly wasn't prepared for the commission.
no, surely wasn't. And that's probably why the planning board put that annotation in there about having to run it through us first. They probably should have run it through us first before they voted on it, actually. But that's another story. But I guess what we can do is make a motion and a vote to do a positive determination and ask for an NOI, because it's absolutely clear that some serious clearing was done in that resource area.
Right.
So we should ask for an NOI and encourage them to move that split driveway out of the buffer zone if they can do that. 'Cause that's on a slope. You can see there's a relatively steep slope here, which means water running downhill off that driveway and from the construction site up above will end up in the swamp. And
Is this the
Does
southern
anybody-
end of West Road,
Pardon?
Harley?
Yes,
Is
it
this the
is.
stuff
It's
a
the
little bit prior to the train bridge?
right. So if you come off of 41 and you go through the under the railroad overpass, you make a little left and then a right, and it's just there. It's right down there. Yeah.
After you come around that steep curve and when the road straightens out, that's where the lots are on the left or on the west side.
It's very much down there.
Yeah, yeah, it's not too far from the railroad bridge.
Unknown.
Any other discussion before we make a motion for something here? None? Then I'll make a motion to make a positive determination on this RDA and require an NOI. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Pat.
Pat? Let me do roll call.
Bob
Adam, aye.
Dolan, aye.
Bob, was that you? Aye.
Aye, yes, Bob Dolan.
Harley?
Aye.
Dan's not here. Okay. Adam?
Aye.
Ron, aye.
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Chip, aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Okay, so Shep will communicate with them relative to
You bet.
that determination.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next agenda item. Request for determination of applicability from the Wood Environmental and Infrastructure Solutions Incorporated on behalf of QXX Transportation Incorporated. The subject property is the entire railway right-of-way through Richmond. The applicant is seeking a determination whether the boundaries of wetland resource areas depicted on 13 plans and/or maps submitted by the applicants are accurately delineated. Awaiting scopes and quotes from the three consultants. That's where we left at the last meeting. Chuck was going to, we voted on the three consultants that he recommended to go ahead and get the scopes and quotes from them. Do you have any status on that, Shep?
I've spoken to everybody, including the CSX fellow, and all three of the consultants. They are at work generating their scopes and quotes. And the railroad Wood Environment and Infrastructure Consultant Company is waiting to get the news.
Okay, when do you expect the scopes and quotes to come in? Do you have a date set for
We
them?
should have it. We should have it for our next meeting, Ron.
Okay, thank you. All right, then I'll move that we continue agenda item 3B, the CS RDA, to the next meeting on March 9th, I think it is. Okay. Second on that. The second on the continuation.
I'll
Bob
second it.
Dolan, second.
Many seconds.
Who was the second? I couldn't hear.
Adam or Bob, either one.
All right. Need a vote? Ron, aye.
Harley, aye.
Adam, aye.
Bob Dolan, aye.
John, aye.
Aye.
And Shep.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion to continue passes. Okay, next agenda item. Fortunately, I printed out this agenda with fine print, so I'm having a hard time reading it for whatever reason. Agenda item 3C, request for determination of applicability from Berkshire Engineering Incorporated on behalf of Sally Shavari, property at 73 Rossiter Road, map 408, lot 31. The proposed work consists of upgrading an existing failing septic system with a new septic tank and leach field, and decommissioning the failing system adjacent to a pond and associated PVW. Now, do we have a representative?
Yes, we do. Yep,
Here,
Mike
here.
Kulig, Berkshire Engineering.
Who was that?
Oh, Mike Kulig with Berkshire Engineering.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Hi.
I see you now. All right, speak your piece. Now, I would like to point out that the Concom hasn't seen this RDA yet. It's sitting on the desk in Town Hall because of the COVID situation. People don't go in there very much, and the weather today prevented us from getting our hands on it. But go ahead and present it, and there might be a few questions that we
Okay.
asked for.
Should I can share my plan there if it helps?
I can share the screen if you want to show it.
Okay, let me get to it here.
It's actually shared already, so you can pop in there if you want.
All right. So there it is.
Can you blow it up?
Yeah, is that showing up on the screen there?
I can see it, but it's very small.
Okay, I can plow in there a bit.
That's good.
That's good.
That's better.
Yeah.
So this is at 73 Rossiter Road. I don't know if you folks had a chance to take a peek at it.
We haven't.
Okay. So there's an existing failed system at this site. Another firm did an inspection and found a kind of a bad system. The existing system, I guess for reference, this is Rossiter Road, kind of to the top of the page, to the north of the house.
Yes.
The existing system is this. So the existing tank is just to the south of this little driveway area, and the existing leach field is kind of down. We didn't dig up the entire field, but it's kind of down in this general area by this proposed 96 contour. Back in November, we went out with Val Bird from the Board of Health and did some perk tests. There's kind of a string of 3 or 4 or 5 pine trees and a line that seemed to kind of have put there with some intention. But just down gradient of those pine trees are where we did the perks. In an effort to avoid a handful of things, there's a drain line that takes foundation drainage through here. We had started initially in this area to try and keep things kind of away from these trees, but the drain line sort of prevented that. So we had decent perks, 8-minute perks, and groundwater table wasn't too bad. Soils are pretty good. This area was kind of chosen. It's relatively flat. So it seemed to lend itself pretty well to a gravity system from this existing tank would be replaced with a new tank, and a new leach field would kind of be tucked in just below this this row of pine trees. We're showing one of these trees coming out. It just the way the contours are, we didn't want to push any further to the east. There was a wetland associated with the pond that we were trying to keep as much distance to as we could, but still keeping a gravity system. I guess our take is the simpler system ends up being a little more reliable kind of long term. So our goal was to try and keep a gravity system in here. I don't have an approval yet from the health department. I had a conversation with them about this, but kind of waiting on approval, and yeah, I'd be happy to visit the site if there's a need for that. But or to answer any questions.
And there's no other area outside the buffer zone you could locate that leach field.
So there's actually a number of areas. The kind of as you head south on this parcel, it's steep kind of from where the tank is, from where the proposed tank is down towards the pond. There's a steep slope that kind of gets eventually into the buffer zone or into the 50. And further to the south, there's we're eventually into a CR. There's a conservation restriction area, Reynolds CR area that that we eventually get into. So it was I guess our kind of effort was to try and maintain a gravity system and not anything further south got into a pumped situation, and still in buffer zone. And further north was similar.
Where is the conservation area? I heard you mention the conservation area there. Where is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ronnie. What? Say that again.
Where is the conservation area? Do you have it
Oh,
marked?
I'm going to kind of pan over to the locust map. So this is the house where my cursor is.
Yep.
And this green area is all CR. So further so our system is kind of roughly in this general location where the cursor is. And as you head south, we kind of looked at that area to see if we could still get a gravity system. It would have ended up being a pump system and still in the buffer. I guess way further south, we would be in the CR. Now we could go kind of up on the hillside there, pump it up on the hillside into the CR somewhere, but we were trying to leave that CR alone. And this was generally close to the existing system, so it made decent sense to stick close to it.
I know Harley looked at this in terms of the CR and whatever, and what kind of a conservation restriction on it is this? Who owns it?
So that
Bud Reynolds, right?
it's Richmond Land Trust owns it. I reviewed it quickly to see the terms of it, and there's no exceptions in the CR for septic systems, no specific exception. So that's not would have to be, in my non-legal opinion, but probably can't be put in any of that CR area. But it does also seem to me, looking at the map, that that's a pretty large parcel that wasn't put under conservation restriction. It's like over 2 acres. And so I guess the alternatives would be, as Mr. Kulig was saying, to take it uphill and do a pump system. And he probably, seems to me that plenty of room to do that, whether that might be an alternative and keep it entirely out of the buffer zone. But that's what I've discovered.
Yeah, so and when we kind of come into these things, we always look to comply with the Wetlands Protection Act, obviously, and also satisfy Title V and try and balance the expense of these things for for the homeowner. And I understand we're in the buffer. We know we're in the buffer. If we always look to find a spot to get out of it, if there's an area to get out, we always shoot for that. While also kind of keeping the economics of things in mind. In this case, we satisfy, we're out of the 50, so we satisfy Title V with respect to the Wetlands Protection Act. And I guess that's our answer to the question is, can we stay outside of it? Maybe, yeah, maybe we could. It gets into a pump situation and a bit of a different project. I guess from our sort of standpoint, the pump introduces another kind of moving part that doesn't often fail, but can fail. And
More expensive.
introduces the potential for something to happen with the, if the pump fails and the system blows out, it's going to go down the hill anyway. So I understand what you're saying, though. We always try and stay out of the buffer when we can, but in this case, it was to get a gravity system. There was kind of one spot where it could work, and we were kind of limited in other choices as far as sort of keeping this thing simple.
And you put it on the west side of those trees?
So what, oh, yeah, so we looked in there, we started in there, and our first pit was right on top of this drain line. And to get gravity, we would have had to have been sort of down in this location. And it would have ended up requiring additional tree cutting to get that in. So we sort of stepped away. We would have had to move the drain line and do additional tree cutting.
No, I was thinking to the west of the 100-foot buffer zone, to the north of the house there. You got that big maple.
Oh, say that again, Ron, I'm sorry.
You have a well setback there. To the north of the house, outside the buffer zone, in that area where you have your hand now.
Yeah, so that's the well setbacks. Yeah, that would have been a sort of a similar situation. We would had to have been pumped to get over there, and it would still be in the buffer. So it was kind of is it worth it to
Farther to the west, can you come out of the house at a different point since you already have to replace the tank?
Oh, to the west of the house or to the west of?
West of the buffer zone, but I can see the well setback is there.
Yeah, that's the well, that's the 100-foot well setback. The Board of Health wouldn't let us go in there. I guess there'd be a little sliver in there that might be outside of both, but it would have been a pump.
Yeah, I understand the pump thing.
Oh,
it doesn't seem to be any options because of the well setbacks and.
Yeah, we always look at this, like, where can we go and not have to deal with, trying to get a permit from the Conservation Commission or being close to a resource. And we were just hemmed in on this one, for something that's going to be sort of a serviceable and longer term solution than there's always the pump option. It just, if we can keep it simpler and just less susceptible to long-term problems.
Yeah, and we appreciate you trying to keep it out of the buffer zone. I can see the problem.
Yeah, and I mean, to the south, we looked at it. Just the slope there was steep, and it was going to be it would have been a kind of a larger system to catch up, to get the grading to catch up further to the south.
We didn't consider one of those vertical systems of any sort.
Yeah, vertical. Well, this one is sort of vertical. It's quite a bit of fill there, just to kind of.
Yeah. Now, what you heard us talking on the first hearing about the phosphorus load that could potentially come out of one of these leach fields into the wetland, into the pond or whatever, and that's the thing that you don't want. Nobody wants.
Yeah, I guess the benefit with this is a modern, I guess a modern system anyway. It's going to be up out of the groundwater table. The current system is in the groundwater table.
Yeah.
And it's a significant investment. It's going to be a $25,000 investment to.
That's all?
That's all. Yeah, it's a cheap one.
I just went through it a couple of years ago. It was a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Without a pump.
Without a pump. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's all that fill.
Okay, I'm done with my questions. Anybody else in the commission? Harley, you explain what's going on relative to the conservation area, and I think we all understand that. Bob, any
What is
questions?
that drain, Mike? What is that drain line? That lengthy drain line, is that a downspout drain going off of the corner of the house?
I think it's a foundation drain. We kind of got into it, and it was flowing at the time, and it wasn't raining, so I think it's a foundation drain that runs through there. They might have the roof gutters tied into it too, but it's primarily a foundation drain.
And then it daylights where we see it stop?
Yeah, the end of that. Yeah, it kind of, you can't really see it unless you're digging a hole there and you tear it up, but it's there.
There's a dotted line there, and that probably means probably where it daylights is.
Yeah, that's the spot. We found the end of it after we dug into it.
Adam, anything else?
That's keeping you from getting over there.
Yeah, that was our first look. It was like, geez, we can go over there and maybe cut that one pine tree down, that one sort of standalone, but
yeah,
we kind of got right into it, and right off the bat, we kind of pulled up stakes and relocated a little bit further east.
Well, if you were digging that area for the leach field, you could probably easily relocate that foundation drain around the edge of it. Because you'd already be digging there anyway, at the leach field, but. Adam, any more questions on that?
No.
Bob, you have any questions?
Nope, no questions.
Pat?
Seems like this is the least impact. I would go for this vote for the system.
Understand, it's not great, but it's probably I don't see any other choice either, so that's my personal opinion, but somebody else may have a different opinion. Shep?
Question, Mike, is there, given the slopey nature of the site and the substantial fill going in, what's that, a 3-for-1 or 2-for-1 slope on the east side?
Yeah, we're showing a 2-for-1
Yeah.
with erosion control fabric on it.
Yeah, would you be putting a membrane in there?
There is a membrane, and yeah, kind of between the sand and the random fill, there's a rubber membrane. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that's to sort of mitigate against breaking out.
Yeah, that keeps the breakout from kind of getting out to daylight.
Yep.
Sooner than it's supposed to. So it'll push everything kind of down. And we had a good perk. We had I think a 7 or 8 minute perk. So the soils are good.
Nice.
So that we think the opportunity or the potential for breakout is relatively minimal.
Yeah, good.
We show fabric on the erosion control fabric on that slope. We tried to keep that slope fairly steep to sort of keep the footprint contained as much as we could.
Yep. Okay, that's it.
John, any questions?
No, after all the talk, it looks like that's probably the optimum place to go with it.
Understand from the drawing, but I would still like to see the site before we make a decision. Because there is a lot of land there. And I can't tell from the drawings the slopes perfectly, so. If nobody has an objection, I'd like to make a motion that we just continue this until after next meeting, after we've had a site visit to take a look at the topography ourselves and the vegetation. Does anybody have a problem with that?
I don't, what's looking at the site gonna do for you?
And you can visualize the slopes better. And see if there is another area. I understand what he's saying, but
When's the work going to be done? Not till spring, right?
Yeah, the work won't be till spring. They're kind of in the process of a real estate transaction that sort of hinges on some of this. I don't know, Sally, did I see you on the phone on the list of folks here? Sally Shavari was with us at one point or another.
I'm here.
Oh, hi, Sally.
Hi, how are you, Mike?
Good.
So, yeah, there is a real estate transaction, but it's contingent on us putting in that plan. Berkshire Septic is the contractor who's going to do it. They think, especially with the kind of winter we're having in the cold, we're probably talking beginning of April.
That'll be nice and muddy.
Well, they took that in mind too, because it slopes down to that area. So that will also, there's no set time frame because we don't know when the snow is gonna melt.
Not that much frost in the ground either.
okay, well.
And Mike, you're not saving yourself a whole lot if you brought it up a little bit uphill towards the house and took out those other pines.
Those pines are going to be removed. That is part of the estimate.
Oh, the big ones?
The big ones along the edge. Yep. We decided that would make the most sense.
Okay, you can move the whole leach field uphill then.
Yeah, you can move it. You could budget up a little bit and maybe a little bit.
Part of it out of the buffer zone.
Especially since it's so high, you could come a little bit close to the drain and just build up over that drain.
How many pine trees are we talking about?
Looks like
One,
three,
two,
right?
3, 4. There's four there.
Four.
One we were showing to go anyway. There's
Yeah.
four. Yeah, the only, yeah, we can move it up. It gets a little steeper there. The kind of further up we go, the steeper it gets, and it turns into a little more fill, but it's further away from the wetland for sure.
Yeah.
This is a gravity system too. The further you go up.
It would still be gravity. Yeah, we can keep it gravity.
Okay,
The,
I'm glad you mentioned the fact that pine trees are going anyway, so.
And you gotta get roots out and everything, so now you're disturbing a lot of the earth.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well-
that's good news. I'm gonna make a motion that we continue it and await a revised plan that moves the leach field to the west uphill, as far out of the buffer zone as you can get it.
Yeah.
And that's what we prefer. Because obviously our concern is the nutrient loading of the pond. That's a pretty good sized pond there, so.
Second,
Do I have a second?
second. Adam.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
What is
Riley,
the
aye.
motion? What's the
That
motion?
was Pat.
Motion is to continue the meeting to March the 9th.
Okay, all right.
After that, will and awaiting a revised plan for relocating the leach field uphill.
Wait a minute. First, we're talking about a site visit. Now you're wanting to revise it for the next meeting?
Well, we want to see the drawing. We have to await a new drawing for the relocating it uphill. And we have a site visit after we got it, before the next meeting.
Now we have time for a site visit.
Now we have time for a site visit, right? And hopefully there's no snowstorm. Okay,
Snowshoes.
Bob,
Aye.
Harley,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Ron, I, and Shep.
Aye.
Thank you. So the next meeting is March the 9th. And Mike, when do you think you can get an updated drawing? It sounds like it's just a little cut and paste job here, right? On CAD
Piece of
cam,
cake.
on CAD cam.
Piece of cake. Yeah, give me a till the middle of next week or something. Give me a week and I can get you one.
Okay, and then once we get it, then Shep, we can arrange a site visit.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. All right. So that's a continued meeting until next month with the conditions we just specified. Next item on the agenda. Item 3D, request for determination of applicability from the Berkshire Engineering Incorporated on behalf of the estate of George Dix property at 1181 Lennox Road, map 411, lot 76.1. Proposed work consists of upgrading an existing septic system within the outer 50 foot of the buffer zone to an intermittent stream. So Mike, I think you handled this one too.
Yep, that's us.
And you sent out a new drawing and I see it.
Yep, that's a new one. So we, you guys ready to roll on this one?
Yeah, I've been looking at the satellite pictures on this and all that. And you've got it out, except for a sliver of it, you got it out of the buffer zone, so I'm satisfied with that. And other members, if they have comments, but it's much better than the previous plan. And if you want to explain what you did to the rest of the commission, because none of us have been on the site, but we're looking at the satellite photos and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So this is kind of at the top, or not quite the top of Lennox Mountain, but it's getting up near the top.
Yeah.
It's this is a difficult site. It's between bedrock and other wetlands and kind of man-made ponds. It's sort of peppered with things that kind of prevented us from looking too far. The existing system, this is the existing tank, if you can see my screen. Existing tank is up kind of off the end of the house. The existing system is in, we show this sort of oval that's close, we think, but I think it extends even further than we show it. So we did a set of perch down low here just to get kind of a good handle on the native soils. And the native soils are lousy. The soils are terrible on this site. We ended up having to take a sample and send it off to a lab to get a perk rate. We looked to the north up here, and we did a pit up in kind of in this general area, and it was worse. The groundwater table is very shallow up higher here. And if you go a little further north, there's a wetland up there that we knew we had to stay away from. And we've got the stream kind of down below. Would have been nice to kind of get below the driveway, but the stream is there, so we were hemmed in. We had started out with a system that was kind of partly into the woods, and it had a bit of a retaining wall. It was kind of a bit more work than I think we had to do. So we kind of, with some comments from Ron, we sort of retweaked it and pulled it up so it's all in the lawn area now. But we just didn't have a ton of options. We looked at even heading way out back, but there are probably 4 small ponds that I think were dug by somebody out there, and associated wetlands that really eliminated a whole bunch of area to exploring. So we kind of stuck with the general location of the existing system. We don't like doing that because soils have kind of already been disturbed. But I think we're far enough off the edge of it where we can get into some native material. This particular system, so these Elgin modules we show, the state considers them a kind of a passive sand filter. They're considered an innovative and alternative technology, so the state requires they be inspected every year. So this system will get a little more of an eyeball than some. It gets a look every year, and it's required to meet some performance standards for effluent. So it's, given the soils, we wanted to kind of put something a little more than typical in this particular site. So this site it's a little more of an involved system than some others, but we felt the use of this alternative technology was warranted here, and so it'll get a more frequent look than a lot of other systems that just go in and you kind of walk away from. So given the sort of surrounding resource areas, we were concerned that this would just be a kind of a walk away, and it was kind of demanding a little more than a walk away.
So this is gravity, correct?
It's gravity, yeah. We're able to keep gravity, not by much. If you see this pipe is just about the minimum to get gravity flow, and so we were trying to get gravity and stay below the old system as much as we could. I think we're going to be into the old system somewhat, but we'll have to peel it out and replace it with Title 5 sand. So we'll kind of figure that out when it's being built, exactly how far the old system sort of intrudes.
This stream down here, this is for the information of the Concom, is the same stream that flows by the Ledbetter property from what when I looked at the GIS maps, and it's kind of a perennial intermittent stream. And, you're allowed to say that. So it does flow a lot. And there has been flooding on Lennox Road because of this stream. But anyway, I want to point that out. But and this doesn't have anything to do with this permit. But Mike, do you know on this barn? And maybe Holly's here. Was this thing ever permitted? Because it's right in the buffer zone of that intermittent stream, and it's a big barn. I think it's bigger than the house if you look at the satellite photo. And I don't know if you know anything about that, Mike. But we do.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. It looks like it's been there. It's been there a while. It looks like it's been kind of tacked on to a little bit over time. You know, some of it's just kind of a lean-to structure on on a couple of posts. But man, it looks pretty well occupied. I think most of it's dirt floor, but the upper floor there's 2 stories to it. It's got a little bit of space upstairs where they look like they store material, and
Just
But it looks like it's kind of a workshop to me, but
storage, no living. But anyway, it's not pertinent to this application, but I was just curious because it was so large. And it was right in, hit into the 50-foot buffer zone. And we don't like to see things at all in the 50-foot area. Okay, any other questions by any of the members?
Nope.
I've been looking at the satellite photos, the Google Maps photos on this thing, and I'm happy to see that he was able to move it pretty much 90% out of the buffer zone, so I'm happy with that. Anybody, any other Concom members have any questions on that? John, Shep, Harley, Pat?
Negative.
Okay. There's no other questions.
-3.
-3. I'll make a motion that we vote on a -3 determination for this RDA.
Second it.
All in favor? Pat,
Aye.
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Bob, aye.
Charlie, Bob. And who gave me the second on that? I forgot.
I did. Bob Dolan. Not Uncle Remus down there.
So the motion for a -3 determination passes unanimously. And I appreciate that, Mike.
thank you, folks.
I also informed the Board of Health that we're happy with this too.
Oh, great.
Thanks for those changes, Mike.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for your diligence.
Thank you. We
All right,
appreciate you trying to protect our water resources here in Richmond, so anything we can do to do that is well regarded. Okay. Next item on the agenda, if I can find it here. Agenda item 4, certificate of compliance request. Item 4A, 421 Swamp Road, Perdillo Driveway, original NOI 271-0145. Original certificate of compliance issued 9/14/2010. It's never recorded, can't be found. We have a copy, and a new COC will be generated for recording. Shep?
That new certificate of compliance has been generated, and it's in the folder downstairs at the office for everybody to sign.
Thank you. So if anybody still needs to sign it, please stop by the town hall and do it.
Who has to sign it? Who's left?
We need 4 warm bodies.
At least 4 members.
I
This
think
is
I
a-
signed it already.
Yeah, you may have. You were there the other day for somebody, you told me, or somebody told me.
It's just better if you
think I
tell
signed too.
the person who has to sign it about it. Otherwise, they may think they've already done it and
Yeah,
be remiss.
unfortunately, I can't just pop over there and look to see who signed, but Dan, I think Dan told me he signed, but he's not here. And I know I signed it, and Adam, I think you signed it, and Pat signed it, so. Jeff, if you're missing a signature when you take a look at it, let us know. Okay. Moving on to certificate of compliance request, item 4B, 916 Lennox Road, King Property, recent request for certificate of compliance. Let's see, who's representing Mr. King here? So, representing himself, or you have an engineer here, Brent White?
Good evening, everybody. We also have attorney Matthew Rosian and landscape architect Craig Overstrom Lang as well. I believe
Hello.
Mr. King was open to start this presentation, and good evening to everybody.
Thank you. You want to put something on the screen?
Oh, Dick, I think you need to hit unmute first, please.
Who needs to unmute? I can do it here too.
Dick does.
Oh,
Dick King.
And I'm trying to unmute you. Where the hell?
Dick, in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, there should be a button that says mute and then unmute. If you'll just click that, then we should be able to hear you.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Loud and
Okay.
clear.
It's been a while. Nice seeing you guys again. Hope you've been well. Hey, Commissioner
Hey, Joe.
Rivers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on your agenda tonight. Sharon and I just finished our home and really love living in Richmond. It's been a 5-year process under Scenic Mountain Act. We are hoping tonight we can establish a roadmap for resolving any issues. And we're looking forward to getting our certificate of compliance. Thank you very much.
Brent, you have anything to say? Or Shep, I'd like to have Shep lead this response. If Brent, you have something to say, please do right now.
I would just assume let Shep speak what he has to say here first.
Yeah,
And then
let me just mention, yeah, I distributed to all of you
Oh, you're not coming through audio wise.
this afternoon. I received from Craig Ogerstrom Lang a memo, 3 pages.
It's really
I'm
distorted.
sorry.
We're having a little trouble hearing you. It's distorted.
Can you hear me,
No.
Your video is frozen though.
Ron?
Hold on a second. Your audio is on, but your video is frozen. The screen is frozen. I don't know what's going on.
No, it's moving.
Not on my screen.
I distributed a memo from Craig Ogerstrom Lang this afternoon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Still there?
Yeah, we're not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Now
Yes.
you're back.
I sent everybody a memo from Craig
Yeah.
this afternoon.
Yeah.
I received it. This is Ron.
You're gone now.
Yeah, we've lost you.
Did anybody receive the memo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think we ought to let Craig go through it.
Okay,
Okay, Craig, go ahead.
okay.
I think we should let Craig go through his memo.
Agreed.
We got that, Shep. Thank
Okay,
you.
Shep.
Okay, Craig Ogerstrom Lang, landscape architect. What I wrote down was basically a time. Does everybody hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
What I put down was a timeline of the project as best as we know it. It might not have every meeting that you had amongst yourselves or any public hearings, but from what we understand is the timeline of the project. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm just going to go through some key points. We had our original application in 2016 where my firm did the plan and the narrative for it. And that was approved. We ended up having an issue when some fill material was brought into the site, and we got a cease and desist in 2017 in March. And we basically were asked to respond to you guys in much more detail, which we did, which Brent White's firm led that effort. And during that, you gave us 5 milestones to meet. Do you guys remember the milestones? Should I go through them?
Please do.
Okay. Milestone 1, that was at the April 11th, 17 public hearing. Excuse me, there's 6 milestones. Milestone 1 was we were given permission to commence completion of a stone retaining wall per Brent's drawings. We are also allowed immediate commencement of the framing and construction of the home. It had been held off since then. In July of 2017, milestones 3 through 6 were addressed with a submittal to you. And we received feedback, and then the plans were updated slightly per comments you wanted. So we've submitted to you from Brent's firm and my firm a grading and drainage and erosion control plan, a landscape plan with a detailed plant list, plant maintenance and invasive management plan memo. And then Brent had submitted a checklist for the documents and information you requested. So we submitted those in July 18, 2017. Milestone 3 we hit in August of 2017, where we updated the planting plan in a little more detail. And let me just get this. Milestone 4, we also hit in August, which was construction. We were given permission and we completed construction of the septic system and retaining wall associated with the work. Milestone 5 was installation of the barn, but that project's been deferred by the Kings. And milestone 6 was implementation of the final approved RCC landscaping plan. The one milestone that we haven't, we didn't complete one item is this whole item that you would like to have with a consultant, a $2,000 fee and a consultant to look at the site and the landscaping installed. So that item's been hanging out there for a while. The Kings received their certificate of occupancy in 2018, August, and they installed all the plant material in fall 2018. So the plants have now been in place for 2 years. And we're where we are, and right now we're in December here. We submitted our certificate of compliance from White Engineering. Our site visit was canceled today due to the snow, which was a good idea. And I think what we're looking for from the commission is, what's the roadmap? What's it take to move forward with you guys on this project? And we've got one offer out there as a possibility that's in that memo, and I can discuss that if you want, or just hear more for what you're looking for.
Shep, do you want to speak now? Shep?
Unmute.
Wow.
Unmute yourself. Where are you?
There I am.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right.
Okay. So what's the question, Ron?
Do you want to speak now? Craig went through the milestones that they were working to. And the one thing he didn't mention between milestone 1 and 2, between the permit and whatever, there ended up being clear cutting of the mountain slope there and tons of fill put in, which was not in the
Right.
plan. And that's why we pursued this was an enforcement order at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you might want to
That's correct.
expand on that. And we could get the restoration plan with hard to restore, but because you took down a viable forest there, but a planting plan of trees and shrubs. And we took a look at the plantings, but we weren't sure, because we're not arborists, whether or not those plantings would and the undergrowth that was been planned to the not grass, but the field that would be in the undergrowth, because we didn't want lawn there. Whether or not that would be sufficient to reestablish the watershed that slope represented, and the screening of the house from down the mountain. So we asked for the consultant, and we asked for a fee, which we're absolutely allowed to do by the bylaws. And we never heard another thing after that. We never got the fee. We never had a consultant look at it. And we couldn't do that without the fee being paid, and for some reason.
Well, we were told at a site visit when we were there that Mr. King there was no way Mr. King was going to advance $2,000 to have somebody look at the trees. Despite the fact that we had agreed that in a meeting, and I subsequently sent Mr. King a copy of the minutes of that meeting, and specifically the terms of the agreement that we made with him, that we would hire a peer reviewer, in effect, like we've done before, and we established a not to exceed limit on what a consultant fee would be for that guy. And we even had them all lined up and ready to go. But we were told, no, that Mr. King was not going to bother with that. He told us he didn't really want us on the property anymore. He wanted us to go away and stay away. Well, now Mr. King has come to us looking for a certificate of compliance. The permit for this project, which was done in 2016, late 2016, was for a project that was defined by a plan which was prepared as a master plan by Craig Okerstrom Lang. That was the original plan that was permitted. Now, what is out there on the hillside today is substantially different than what was shown on the plan that was permitted. And the way the certificate of compliance works is that the applicant who submits the original notice of intent and the original plan is to get a statement from the professional that drew the subject plan and attach that to the request for certificate of compliance, referencing the original plan that was permitted. And if there are substantial differences between what was permitted in the original permit and what is there now at the end of the project, the commission quite frequently will ask for an as-built plan. Now, my suggestion is not that the commission necessarily wants to see a fully engineered, white engineering topographic plan, in detail. That's not what the commission is really after. What I think would suffice, and the commission will have to address this, I can't do it for you. What I think might suffice is if Craig Okerstrom Lang took the engineering drawings that White Engineering has prepared along the way to describe the change in the fill and the slope and all that sort of thing, and the planting plan and all that, and creates a comparative plan to the original master plan, which illustrates the differences between the two, and we then figure out how to mitigate that, how to fix that, if there's a fix, if there's something the commission will settle for. And I think that's a reasonable approach to a not desperately expensive solution.
No,
Did you get that?
Yeah,
I think we got it, but it was a little distorted. You have an audio problem with your computer.
Hello?
I understood it.
I could understand it, but it was, anyway, Adam, do you have any comments on that?
So are you suggesting that we bypass the consult person that we were originally, that we're sort of stuck on in that place, Shep? And move to another direction?
Shep's not connected, I don't think.
Well, his audio is on. I can see it here.
Yeah, but he's frozen.
Yeah, well, he's been frozen quite a bit here.
And when he
Mr. Chairman,
talks,
may I take a stab at that?
Yeah.
Thank you. So first off, I appreciate everyone's time this evening and having us for this discussion. I did have a chance to speak with Shep briefly earlier, and he had described, again, this plan that would show the 2016, the 2017, and where we are currently. I think there's, from our standpoint, having these more recent discussions, I think I understand that what maybe was a misunderstanding, certainly maybe back in 2017, in terms of the plans that my office had prepared that was focused on identifying the limits of the that were brought in and the permanent solution to stabilize that. I'm pleased to see that.
What I'm saying is,
we've got Shep back.
no,
Go ahead, Shep.
Go ahead, Shep, yeah. Boy, we are having trouble with his audio.
Stringed
and
up.
visual.
You want to call in on the cell phone?
Yeah, that might be easier.
Yeah,
Yep, you want to call my cell phone, I'll just put it on speaker here. And we
I
did
think
that.
you can call in directly to the Zoom.
Yeah, that's right.
If he's in range.
Well, I assume he's at home.
If you wouldn't mind, I'll finish what my
Yeah,
my
go ahead,
thought was
Brett.
as
Go
a way.
ahead.
No, thank you. Hearing the discussion and having a chance to speak directly, in my view, I think we have a better understanding of what the concern as it relates to, regardless of what understanding we thought we had in 2017 in terms of the planting plan that was prepared here. From our perspective, understanding certainly that there's a desire for
I'm sorry.
planted. My goal would be to, rather than
But I know you were saying something, but I don't know what it was.
Hold on, Jeff. Brent's finishing his thought.
allegedly.
Okay.
Our thoughts were
Yeah, I will call in. Give me, but you want me to call your cell phone?
There's a telephone number
You, give me the telephone number.
on the agenda.
Text it to him.
It's
I am.
646-558-8656.
Get that?
Hold it up on the chalkboard there, Harley.
I'm gonna try.
Oh, it's backwards. 646-558-8656.
Well, while he's dialing, I'll try and finish briefly before he joins us. And my thought was, we're understanding the concerns that are raised in terms of the comparison to the 2016 conditions versus what we have on site today. Certainly, we have some infrastructure that's now in place, a sewer line and some underground power that we want to be mindful of. But ultimately, our request would be to allow us to work directly with the commission to develop that additional plan. Admittedly, from my office and then other professionals, I know this is a very busy time. I think we're understanding what some of your questions or concerns are as it relates to better establishing the conditions that we're committed to in 16, while also being mindful of the current ground conditions that we have on site, the infrastructure in place, and frankly, coming up with a plan that we can agree to and implement come the weather breaking in April to help put this matter behind us. So that was our goal, would be to take some of the resources that may have gone to a consultant, allow us to prepare additional information with possibly a greater explanation into proposed height, anticipated growth over a certain period of time, give you more of that information and allow us to work more directly with the commission to take from where we are today to a position where we can take actions to plant items that would ultimately allow this commission to issue a certificate of compliance. So that's what we're hoping to figure out what that path forward could be this evening. And I'll go on mute. I think we have Shep back on the phone. So thank you.
We have you, Shep.
Thanks.
Shep, you on? Well, we gotta fix this problem. We have it almost every meeting.
What's he got, dial-up down there?
I don't know. I think he's got an antique computer.
To have two cans in the
Okay, I
string.
understand what you said, Brent. Adam, any comments on?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got.
Harley, I need the meeting ID.
Meeting ID?
Oh.
871 0056 3166.
Shep, you gotta upgrade your internet service. You can't conduct business this way. We've been all holding on here for hours. You gotta get that fixed this week.
Yeah, you gotta go into the office and get on your computer there on Zoom.
Yep.
It's crazy.
It's hard to follow when
Yes.
it keeps breaking up.
Distorted and wasting time.
871
Thank you.
That's not working. There's a problem with the video too, but the audio is the important thing right now.
Perhaps if he were to turn his camera off, that may be less of a demand on his internet, might make the audio connection a little better, possibly.
You think that would work? I'll give that a shot.
Matter if he's on the phone.
Hello,
There he is.
Hi.
I'm on the phone.
Good.
You sound better.
That's good.
Shep,
You
you're
look
not
better,
allowed. You're
too.
not allowed to do this again. You have to use your phone. Period. Amen. That's it.
We've had this trouble almost every meeting, so I agree.
I know we have. I
Yeah.
know. The trouble, you know what's really curious is that I'm on a Zoom meeting almost every other day with one or another town and committees and things. It works like a charm.
From your home
Here we
computer?
are. There's something odd about this. I don't know what it is, but the phone works fine.
Okay,
Okay.
you heard what
First
Brent
of
said.
all, let me just cut to the chase. We need to say, I would think
Hello.
that
I'm
that
on the
the
phone.
commission would want to see an
That's
as-built
good.
plan prepared by Craig in the same style as his original master plan, drawing upon the topos and other
I know
engineering
we
plans that have been prepared
I know.
in the interim.
You know what's really curious is that I'm on Zoom meeting almost every other day with one another town and committees and things. It works like a charm.
Well, it's not working tonight.
Here we are.
And it hasn't-
There's something odd about you. I don't know what it is.
Shep, we're
The phone
getting,
works fine. Okay.
shut off your camera, close your computer.
First of all, let me just cut to the chase.
Ron, just disconnect them so we don't have to hear their playback again.
Well, I shut off his microphone.
Okay.
Actually, it's
Give him
not-
the boot.
it won't let me mute him. Hold on. Something's wrong with his link. It won't even let me mute him.
Tell him to turn off his computer. He doesn't need it.
See if you can unmute him.
I think he turned himself off.
The phone line's still visible, so if he just unmutes the *6 on the phone, I think would allow the audio to still work.
Yep.
Through the phone connection.
Yep.
Shep, you on audio? Your number's there.
Here you
Hey,
go.
Shep, there you are. Hello, hello.
Hello,
Test, test, test. Are you there?
I am.
Okay, so go for it. We can
Right.
hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
All right. Now, the concept was that I was trying to convey was that the original plan was drawn by Craig, master plan in 2016. An as-built plan need not be a fully engineered master plan, a fully engineered plan like what White might produce. That's extensively detailed and goes beyond what I think the commission really wants to see. What I would suggest is that Craig review the plans prepared to describe various parts of the project by White along the way and create an as-built plan in the same style and with the same dimensional accuracy as his original master plan. Once the commission can see those two things, the next that would be the as-built plan. The next thing is to find an answer to the what's been planted plan, what trees where, and have the commission's arborist consultant advise the commission on how these things will mature. Develop what was agreed originally was that the commission would do that, and if it were necessary to add trees or move trees, that would be the next step. Unfortunately, everything broke down, and the commission was advised that the consulting fee of not to exceed $2,000 would not be forthcoming. So we got an impasse, and the only way we're going to break through an impasse if Mr. King wants his certificate of compliance is we have to find a middle ground that everybody can agree to. And the only way I know to get there is to have a relatively simply prepared as-built plan that is in the same vocabulary, same style as the original master plan, not an engineered product, and but with scale to approximately to scale as the original plan was, and including what's been planted where, and then the commission will bring on its consultant and will consider what it sees and will proceed to enter into a conversation with Mr. King and his people if he wants to have them about a solution that will satisfy the commission.
Now, Shep, this is Harley. So,
Hi,
this,
Harley.
This sounds like I'm coming very late to this. I apologize to everybody that I haven't been involved since the beginning. I just got here the last 5 minutes of this, right? Which seems like it's been going on for hours and hours and hours and centuries with lots of wrinkles. But I feel like right now, we don't have enough information to make rational decisions about whether, this project in the end was compliant with whatever orders of condition were given during this sort of drawn out back and forth.
I think Harley, excuse me for interrupting you, but I think when the members of the commission that have been on board long enough to have lived through the period when all the fill was brought onto the property, and the trees were cut to accommodate the fill. I think it's a reasonable conclusion that there's a substantial difference, very substantial difference now between what was permitted and what has come about in the end.
Yeah, I mean, that's obvious from just comparing the satellite photos of, what happened over the last few years and the history of the satellite photos and other pictures with what was in that original master plan. But I still feel like your idea of process of trying to find a way to have a before and as built, and then, a recommendation from a consultant to tell us how the plantings are, what's working, what's not working, what it's going to look like in 5-year, 10-year, 15-year time frame. That all sounds really good to me, and it seems like that will put it on a kind of on a good footing for going forward for trying to get Mr. King his certificate, and get this process done. It's unfortunate, really, really unfortunate that it took this evil turn right at the beginning. But now we're trying to find a path forward, and I think I think that process that you described seems adequate to the task. We don't really need a whole new huge engineering diagram at this point.
No.
We just need to know.
No.
We just need to know where we stand in a reasonable way compared to where we had anticipated going. So like that.
Right.
So that seems to me all that seems to me, from my point of view, like a reasonable way to go forward.
Yeah.
May I chime in on that, please?
Brent, go ahead.
Thank you. So in an effort to certainly, I think, try and get more on the same page between, the commission's concerns and our concerns as well. Frankly, it was my position and our thought here that I think it's fair to say there's a feeling from the commission that what we have on site today, you are not satisfied with that in order to issue a certificate of compliance. I think we've covered that. What I was simply suggesting as a part of this, and I think I didn't get a chance to get into this when I was broken up earlier, was in an effort to try and streamline and get closer to a point where I believe we will find that common ground, was to just at this point acknowledge what we have on the ground currently. We fully understand will not get us a certificate of compliance, or you'll be voting on that tonight. What I was merely suggesting was, and I know Craig has already worked on developing a plan based on the as-built survey that we completed in 2017 that identifies the plants that are already in place. I believe we already have a plan that's close for submittal that would identify what our current existing condition is based on the most recent plantings that have been done. Hearing the concerns that that's still not close enough to what the 2016 plan represented, what I'm simply requesting is that we have the opportunity to, in light of the feedback received this evening, as well as the more recent discussions in the last, say, 2 months, give us an opportunity to come back to you with a more robust plan that allows us to, I think, get at some of the concerns of both the trees and the understory that was removed as a part of that fill operation beyond the issuance of the original permit. And when we were brought in March of 2017, where are we today? And what's a reasonable proposal that we can at least attempt to make to the commission, where you make a judgment to say, okay, we saw, hopefully we'll have a site visit and not have another 6 inches of snow. the next day we schedule that, but get out for you all to have a chance to see the property in its current configuration, see the trees that were planted that are intact. Give us a chance to have ideally present a plan for at least discussion during that site visit to get you better antiquated in terms of what we might suggest in terms of additional plantings going forward. And our hope would be that in taking that approach here, that we actually move up this timeline in the order of 2 to 3 months as it relates to getting a plan to you all that at least you would be able to ask us questions about. We're happy to give even more information than you may have received beforehand with the original proposed planting plan. And I think that at that point, at least the commission would feel more comfortable, at least making a judgment to say, based on what we've proposed, do you feel comfortable with it? And then we can move forward and put that in the ground. If at that point you still feel that what we've proposed, you're not comfortable enough and you need a consultant, our hope would be just to at least better define what the scope of services would be for that consultant. But frankly, my hope would be that what I had suggested was really our attempt at a good faith effort to address the concerns of the commission, while also frankly helping move this forward so we have a plan when the weather permits to actually implement this, and hopefully, as I mentioned, have the commission visit the site once that's planted, feel comfortable with the conditions are, and ultimately issue a certificate of compliance. So that's our mindset coming into this hearing tonight here, and hoping to set aside what may have happened beforehand and get a good clear path between our side and yours to get this thing done. And I'm happy to answer any questions, or the rest of our team are as well.
Shep, Adam, does that sound like a reasonable approach? Harley?
Sounds fine to me.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, we're just gonna have, all we do is move to continue the meeting relative to the certificate of compliance. And to the, if you don't want it on March 9th, we can schedule a different date. Depends on how much time you think you need to prepare this comparison plan.
Admittedly, I would defer to Craig on what his availability and timeline would be here, but my hope would be that if I believe you said March 9th is your next meeting.
March 9th is our next, yes.
Yeah.
And that would be to review the plan on what the site visit thing is gonna have to be up in the air depending on weather, because we got to be able to see the vegetation.
Right.
And if it helps, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to, again, I have some very recent photos as of December of 2020. I'm happy to download all the photos that I have that were before snow flew on the site, and I'm happy to set up either a Dropbox or, it's a large number of files, but I'm happy to distribute that to the commissioners, because I think we've got a number of perspectives that identify the areas that were certainly of concern when I was first brought on board in, like I said, March 2017, that shows what the conditions were, very well stabilized, and in some instances, the area of the wall has been stabilized for well over 3 years now, periods where I know we've had very intense rainfall. So I'm very pleased in terms of the overall site stabilization, and it also helps to show some of the more recently trees that were planted. And I think that'll help us serve as a good basis for going forward of that comparison of 2016, what's on the ground today, and what do we think is a reasonable plan that gets us much closer to the 2016 plan going forward.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it's not gonna hurt to have the picture, so if you can set up the Dropbox and let us know where it is.
Well, we'll end up, hey, Brett and Chairman, we can do that plan for your next meeting. And why don't we just, Brett, let's just look at the photographs versus inundating them with them. Let's give them the primary views or something.
A selected group.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, it wouldn't be every single one, but enough to show. I think the area off to the east of the house, which was the slope, as well as the area looking more due west, which I believe was the area of the visual impact to the towards the downhill area. So we'll be selective. We're not going to send you everything, but enough so you can get a level of comfort to see everything that has been planted and how well it's held up so far.
Yeah.
Brent, this is Harley. When you're looking through those pictures, if you find any that I know that at least a little while back, maybe in 2018, you can see that there was second access coming from Lennox Branch Road that was cut up through to the house. And I'm just not sure what that looks like today, but if you have any more recent pictures of that particular area, I'm concerned about that, and I just wanted to know what that looks like.
Well, Harley, that road was there with the property. That was the old road that went through there. That was not a new cut.
But with your plan, original plan, it was going to be closed off with vegetation after you were done with construction.
Right, I mean, if.
It is partially.
Well, I mean,
Which one? Yeah.
I mean, I'm just curious what it looks like now. I mean, it's part of my decision-making on this, and if you do have any pictures that are of that, I'd appreciate it if you could drop them in that box.
Yeah.
And I know I walked up that way. I don't know. I can't speak offhand if I have a good photo, but if I do, I'm happy to include it. And if not, we're happy to make sure we visit that area during the site visit.
All right, thank you, Brent.
You're welcome.
North, south, east, and west pictures, a selected few to help the cause. Okay, I'm just going to make a motion to continue this hearing to March the 9th. Hopefully, the applicant will have the plans that we discussed. And Shep, you know what we talked about when we write up the minutes. Okay. And we're still not saying we won't need a consultant, but as Brent indicated, we can decide later if we need them or not, but we're not experts on, we're concerned about the future growth and restoration of the watershed and the screening. So, and I'm not sure ornamental plants does the job, but you have a combination of ornamental or had combination of ornamental and native oak and maple trees in there. So, and that's what we're concerned about. Okay.
Thank you.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second, Pat.
All in
Give it to
favor,
Pat.
say aye.
Harley, aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you, guys. All right.
Finally,
I knew we have a few tough ones tonight, so
holy cow, don't F with the committee, huh?
yeah, it seems like the winter's busier than ever. My claim to fame was the winter would be real quiet,
This has been
Okay.
educational.
Yeah, no, it's good. We're having good discussion, so, and you guys are doing a good job. Okay, agenda item 5. Discussion of violations and/or enforcement actions, superseding orders. 5A, U Drive Fire Tower pole line easement violation. Enforcement order and ticket status. Shep, you're still online.
Yes, I am.
You're our point man on that.
Sure. We've got, I continue to issue tickets. We're well in excess of $20,000 of tickets at this point.
Good.
That'll take care of my college.
We need the money.
Well, that's not the reason we're doing it, but
We need the restoration is what we need.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
correct.
mess. A mess.
It's correct.
Get out.
Now, a couple of quick thoughts. I've been in touch with the clerk magistrate's office at the courthouse. The magistrate's court is under instructions not to schedule any show cause hearings. In other words, they're not scheduling any hearings on a matter like this at the moment. And that no one knows when they will start scheduling hearings again. So the beat goes on. I had communicated with all three the DCR and the two contractors that that we had a meeting tonight, and if they wanted to speak with the commission or had any questions or anything, why, it's a public meeting, you're welcome to attend. And I sent them the agenda, and I don't believe we had any in attendance. I did get an email this afternoon from one of the contractors who apologized for not being here tonight because he had a prior agreement, but he expected by the next meeting that they would have had some serious conversations with DCR and may have something to speak to the commission about.
Progress.
So I don't know whether that's a sign of progress or not, but that's the state of play.
Thank you, Shep. Tony.
Thank you. So, Harley, I don't know if you've seen recently, but I was just at the house last couple days, and trespassing seems to continue unless it was one of the DCR people that was making their way up the hill. I saw ski tracks on the roadway now that they created. So not sure who's going skiing in the backyard now, but it just never ceases to amaze me how people can find their way up that trail, gate or no gate.
Yeah.
Well, it is a bit of a ski slope now.
Oh, it sure is. It's more of a bobsled run now, Harley, right?
Yeah. I haven't been up there recently. I'm gonna get my snowshoes on and maybe trek up there tomorrow and see what's what.
Yeah.
We don't have Mass Audubon with us tonight, but to see what's going on with their property. Anybody walk all the way up recently, Harley? Snowshoe up, walk up, ski up?
Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow. Yeah, I guess that's all we have on that. I just wanted Jeff to give us.
That's right.
Yeah, just keep hitting them with the fines,
You
because
betcha.
that's going to keep the pressure on. But let's
You know,
hope.
I think, I mean, my intuition tells me that I'm seeing evidence of cracks in the armor here. I don't know for sure, but I bet the pressure is building.
And Clarence has given us a lot of publicity on this, which is
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Hey,
Sure.
whatever happened with the meeting that they were supposed to come? DCR was supposed to come to meet Ron. I think you were going to go, and Harley, you were going to go. Did that ever happen where they showed up, or did he never show up?
He said no.
No. They were proposing to meet Ron and myself and talk about a few things, and had some ideas about things they might be able to do in the spring. But they didn't want to come to a public meeting. They wanted to come to just have a private conversation. And we responded saying that's not appropriate. If you want to talk to the commission, the next meeting is on the 9th of February, and you all come and talk to the commission if you want to. That's the appropriate way to do it.
Yeah, that's the process.
And they're not here.
Okay.
I mean,
But
that's
one
the
of them
that's the
apologized.
process, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And
And
that's,
you know, it
I-
affords all the commission plus the public to actually hear what's going on, keep it transparent.
Exactly. Exactly.
Give members of the community opportunity to input their ideas and thoughts about what's going on. And that's the appropriate process, this extra process. I mean, the whole thing started with them being not compliant with the process. And
Right.
that meeting that they offered is just another example in my mind of being outside of the normal, regular old process that everyone that needs to go through that wants to do a project that's in the Scenic Mountain Act area. I mean, it's no different. And they should have been there all along. They should be our partners in this. They shouldn't be our adversaries.
It is ironic they're the DCR.
Yeah, of all people, we got to deal with them.
Yeah, I know. And
Okay, well, thank you all for keeping the heat on. We appreciate it. I know Harley and
Oh,
I
you're-
and Patrick do. And
You're very welcome.
boy, I love these meetings. It's just
Well, Anthony,
no
we're-
one escapes the wrath of the conservation committee.
well, we
That's
have
the
an
way it should
opening.
be. That's the way it should be.
We have an opening on the commission if you want to join us.
Well, hey, if I can tell you this, you know, I'm not that far away from retirement. I'm going to be looking for another job. So
Yeah, big money here.
that's right.
Right. Lots
Happy
of-
to help out in any way we can, even if I'm not on the committee. So we'll still be joining on Tuesday nights where it looks like there's an agenda item for this. So thank you very much for your time and effort on this. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you can assume that this is going to be an agenda item pretty regularly for a while yet.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna leave it on the agenda until further notice, just so, you know, even though it's a minor updated status, we'll give it, you know?
Yep, that's great.
No update,
That's
we'll
great.
say it's no update.
Yeah, and if we see any activity on that roadway, we'll certainly advise, you know, you guys as well. I know Harley watches it and we
Please do.
watch it, so, yep.
Yeah, please do.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and by
All
the
right,
way,
thank
if
you
you,
all.
if you,
Yeah.
yes, let me, one thing quick before you go.
Yeah.
If you see vehicles parked there and you can get license plate numbers,
Mm-hmm.
I have a way of getting those checked, so I can come up with names and addresses and so forth of who it is.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that. Because we do see them from time to time. We've kicked a lot of people off of there. Just
Yeah,
people that
well,
think
that's,
they can just walk up there.
yeah, that's fine, but I'm very serious because I am actually albeit an unranked person, but I am a member of the police department in Great Barrington.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll do that.
So I can do that. Okay, you want to
Thank
move
you.
on, Ron?
Yeah, let's move on.
Thank you,
please.
Ron.
Okay, you're welcome. Agenda item 6, special permits, variances, or appeals recommendations. We have none to talk about tonight. Number 7, open NOIs, order of conditions, RDA status, recent in-process inspections and action items.
No.
And Shep, I don't know if you've done anything, but I don't think I've done anything since the last meeting.
Nothing on any of those. I wanted to say that before we get too far away from it, that the 159 Willow Drive, I've been swamped with the King thing and the and the Lenox Mountain Tower Road and other enforcement matters. I hope that at the next meeting I'll have some good news for you about Willow Drive.
Okay.
Thank you. That'll be welcome. That 159 Willow was the one that instigated me to push for that ticketing bylaw. That's the one that triggered it for me. And we got
Me
it.
too.
And we should use it.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Item 8, agents report. Any,
Nothing special.
nothing in the future coming up?
No, nothing leering over the horizon yet.
And we haven't heard about that 751 East Road they were talking about?
No.
Okay. Nothing on that one then. Richmond.
No, I think that everybody's waiting to spring, Ron, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's good. That site visit at the King property would have been in the wrong time of year to do that one today.
You can thank Mother Nature for saving you a bad afternoon.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Item 9, Richmond Pond Association, nothing on that. Dan's not here, but there's no meetings going on and we haven't heard anything more relative to the Christian camp and what's going on there. Item 10, open space and recreation plan action items. The first one, item A, conservation land fund discussion of Richmond Source Parcel 101.0-0142, corner of Shore and Beach Road, approved for conservation by Town Select Board. I just want to point out for our minutes that was approved for conservation by the Board of Selectmen on November the 5th. And we ought to hang on to that because that's a couple months ago now. Danielle is deferring that discussion until later, but I have talked her into letting Harley go in front of the Board of Selectmen, not this coming meeting, but probably in the end of February, and explain to the Board of Selectmen what's going on with the deeds there. Harley done some great work on that and the visuals on that, and let them walk through that as a dry run. And we got, if people don't mind, if we has a few minutes tonight, Harley's got a few slides that we'll use with the Board of Selectmen that will explain to you guys what the hell's going on with the deeds on that property. It's a mess. So Harley, you ready to do that?
Sure, I'd be glad to. I'm gonna share my screen. Hopefully things will come out clearly. Let's see how this goes. So, can everybody see this diagram? Is it big enough?
It is.
Okay.
You can't read the print on those blocks, but
All right. So I'll be doing a little bit of zooming in, but everybody realizes that this is Richmond Pond on the right. This line here is Town Beach Road. This area right here is the boat launch. And down here, this little area here was actually not including the road, was this Shore Drive property
Yeah.
that they've agreed to put into conservation. So I guess the first thing for everybody to know is that the tax parcels that are currently in the GIS for all of this are very inaccurate. They don't capture really the ownership of the land. It doesn't even resemble the ownership of the land. Tax parcels aren't, as the lawyers will tell us, are not sufficient to do any real work. You can't purchase a piece of property based on a tax parcel. You have to have a deed. The deeds are really, in the end, the only thing that count in these things. So what I'm going to talk about tonight in this area is really what the deeds that show us. We've done an enormous amount of research on all of the deeds that exist today, the current deeds. So we pretty much know who owns what, even though the tax parcels are screwed up. You know, they're not accurate. So, so this little area here that was going to be conserved, in the end, it's actually a combination of two different lots that were in the original subdivision plan. So I'm going to go up here a little bit and find this other map here just to show you. So if you look right here, and I hope everybody can see this, this is Peter Miller's home right here, marked 143. It was in the 1948 subdivision plan, it was lot 124. This Zero Shore Drive part right here was actually a combination of 125 and 126. All right, so that's the first thing to know, that this lot that's supposed to be put, that we've got approval to put into conservation, this little bit of it was 125 and 126. But then the little wrinkles come into being, because in reality, 126 extended all the way up to the railroad property, which included this, where the Town Beach Road is now. So I go back to that other shot, you'll see what I'm talking about. So just coming back down and down and down. So you'll see here that this area here, if you see this red part, this all would have been part of lot 126. But in fact, that lot 126 was much larger than anybody is really thinking about these days. When Curtis Jones, who was the developer behind Richmond Shores, sold that to Darwin Morse, and then he gave it to the town inhabitants later. When he sold it, he sold this entire piece, which includes the boat launch area, the roadway where the roadway didn't exist then, but what is now the current roadway, the boat launch area, which didn't exist then, but it exists now. So that lot 126 was a huge piece of property. You know, it wasn't just this little corner lot that we thought about. So what do the current deeds for all this look like now? So let's start with this 125 lot. This 125 lot, Curtis Jones, the developer, sold it to a couple, Anthony and Conchita Lazaro. That was in 1948. They never developed anything. They didn't build a cottage or anything. And then they stopped paying taxes on it. So the town ended up taking this lot, and that was in 1955 or 52 for non-payment. They auctioned it off in 1955, but they didn't get anybody to bid on it, so they issued a deed to the town. So the town in 1955 became the owner of this piece. That deed is still current. The only wrinkle is that a few years later, in 1959, the Lazaros, maybe not knowing that it was taken from them, sold it to a J. Arthur Mann. And so there's this other deed that's hanging out there for this later sale that's probably bogus, because you can't sell a piece of property that you don't own. So that probably is a dead end. And that's just a real weird quirk in history. So I think this green outlined area here is owned by the town nowadays. And the tax parcel that sort of includes this bit would include that piece. So we have a deed for this, and it's a current deed. So we know all the back history there. This area here outlined in red, we also have a very clear deed for. This was given to the inhabitants of the town in 1958 in a deed. It was parcel 1 of, parcel 2 of a deed, and it included all of this area. Parcel 2 of that deed, by the way, is all of the, this is the town line up here, is all of that beachfront, all the way up to where it meets Camp Allegro or the Lakeside Christians Camp. That includes the beach area and all of that. That was part of this transfer from Darwin Morse to the town of inhabitants in 1958. So that's pretty clear what that is. So, so those are the deeds. The tax parcels look very different. If you were to look at tax parcels, which is confusing, there's this tax parcel that's highlighted here that includes this little bit of swamp and includes the boat launch, and it actually goes and runs all the way around back to Boys Club Road. This piece here is supposedly the Commonwealth's, but they don't own it. The town owns it. So none of these parcels that they divided it into make any sense according to the deed. So I think the best thing to do right now is to just ignore that complexity. So now the thing is okay, so we have deeds, we have, we know who owns this property. The question I think in my mind is really what's the process going forward to get the areas of this that we feel like ought to be protected, to be put into permanent conservation status. So for me, that means, we probably need to get a survey done and all the boundaries marked. But this piece of swamp here that's on the shore, this undeveloped part here, not including the railroad, that should all be broken out. This area around the inlet, where Mount Lebanon Brook comes in, that should be put into conservation. So all of that needs to be sort of mapped out, and the town to agree that that's what those areas should be in perpetuity, that those areas should be protected. The public access boat launch probably isn't part of that, conservation effort. It has to remain, because this is a great pond, it has to remain as a boat launch. The town beach road right-of-way, which continues all the way around, that is another, what are we doing with that? Who's going to own it? The town owns it right now, regardless of what, at least this piece of it, regardless of what the tax parcels say, this is all town land too. But do we want to, give it to the state? Does the state even want to take it? The state itself actually believes they own it, but they don't. But that's another story for another day. So that's kind of it. I think we have to decide which pieces we want, get a survey done for, marking all the boundaries accurately, cut new deeds for, what we decide to reflect what we decide to do with it, and then write an Article 97 dedication for a vote at a town meeting to put it into conservation. And that's it. If you have questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Basically, the bottom line is survey and marking, and then create new deeds and take the next step after that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the very first part though is for us all to come to a consensus about which pieces need to be in conservation, what kind of conservation, in terms of what the real uses of those areas are. This deciduous swamp should probably remain it's turtle habitat. It's, like all of that. I mean, it probably needs to be conserved as that rather than, we're going to put grass there and a picnic table, So I think that consensus, I know what I would like to see happen, but that consensus among the Conservation Commission, the larger community, the select board, what to do with the rest of, this big parcel, I think is the very first critical step to make sure everybody's on the page. And then the work of doing the survey, which is not going to be that difficult, surveying this, it's all along a road, so nobody has to go tromping through a swamp to do it. And there's very good landmarks because the railroad is there and all the railroad station marks are there. They probably can knock out the survey pretty easily.
Who pays for the survey?
So, I think the town needs to pay for the survey.
Right.
If they've got the problem with the tax parcels, they've really got it screwed up. And I'm hiding a lot of the complexity because if you go down a little bit farther along here, the tax parcels are completely out of whack. And the roadway is segmented into a dozen different pieces of property, owned variously by the state, by the town, by the Richmond Pond Civic Association. So as you go along there, that complexity needs to be resolved. But in the end, the town has this problem with this mismatch between the tax parcels and the reality of what the deeds are. And they really need to get that sorted out.
And if they had tried to sell that, they would have had to sort this problem out just like Harley just did.
Well, if they had actually auctioned it off, I guess if you were a smart lawyer, you would have probably been arguing in court that you now owned the boat launch, the inlet to the Mount Lebanon Brook Inlet, and all of that because you just bought it, including the Town Beach Road part. So I mean, that's what the deeds would have reflected. They didn't do their diligence. They would luckily, in a way, we sort of headed it off this big problem in court because if somebody had come in and bought that, they would have had a legitimate argument, I think, for saying they had bought the entire thing.
Anyway, we need to move on, but we're going to take this to the Board of Selectmen and maybe not so much detail, but we wanted you guys to understand what's going on. And Harley did a lot of work on this, and I'd like to give him a kudo on that. He spent many, many man hours chasing down these deeds.
Yeah, I thank you for that, but I was really doing this detective work for Holly Stover.
Yeah. So,
that was my whole purpose in life.
Holly's father was instrumental in getting this land on that west side of the pond turned over to the town way back when. And he was part of that process. So that's why Holly's very interested in it. Well, she's always been interested in the pond. Is she still online?
I think she is.
Okay. Thank you, Holly. All right. We got to move on here. Why don't you pull your
sorry.
Drawing down.
There we go.
Thank you. Thanks, Harley. Thanks, Ron.
You're welcome. I'll always be your land title person. You just give me a ring. I've got you covered.
Okay, next.
Ellie just likes the bushes alongside the tracks. Her dad planted them.
Yeah, all the multiflora roses that are going everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm also going to plug Holly's new. There's a book coming out that they're working on, the Richmond Pond folks, and she's got a wonderful chapter that she's written about the whole story of the creation of Town Beach Road. And I got a chance to look at the draft of it, and it's excellent. So I'm looking forward to seeing the final product.
Yeah, I don't know if all you guys realize that the Richmond Pond Association is putting together this book on the pond. And obviously Holly's an instrumental part of that, and a few other people. Ken Kelly and the Richmond Pond Association are pushing that effort. So, okay, let's move. Item 10B, Richmond Shores, lots 3, 4, 5 across Beach Road from Nordine Marsh. Lot scheduled for public auction on 13 January. And there was an inquiry from attorney Alan Wright, and at that auction on January the 13th, the 3 lots were sold. Lot 4 was sold to a butter. Wasn't not really a butter, but he's 2 lots down, Bill Malumpy, and lots 3 and 5 were bought by a flipper. And we don't think he understands what he bought there because they're terrible lots. And Alan Wright Riggi, I'm sorry, Alan Riggi, Jeff, he approached you, it sounds like?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, very pleasant guy. I think on the phone sounded like a young fellow. He had been advised by somebody that those parcels might be wetlands or have wetland buffer zone or something, and he wanted to know who to talk to find out. And I advised him to contact one of the wetland delineation people, and I told him that almost every engineering firm in town has one or has access to one, and he was most grateful, and then he went off to do whatever.
So you think he's going to get them delineated on his own? All right. That's
Well, at least he's going to find out what he's got.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, if he had come to us with an RDA or some kind of a permit application, personally, I would have asked you guys to require a delineation, because when Harley and I were out there on a site visit a couple of months ago, those lots are terrible. There's wetland vegetation.
Oh, no doubt.
And there's an intermittent stream running down the side of the mountain, and they're extremely wet.
Yeah.
And so
Sure.
we would have had to take that position. And he probably has issues with zoning setbacks on those lots too. They're not very large.
Yeah. They're very small. And Nordine Marsh is right across the street. I mean, there's all kinds of problems.
Yeah. And
It's a non-issue.
It's a natural heritage area too.
Yeah, and
Yes.
there's definitely a hydrological connection between the marsh and especially that top set of lots there where there's a culvert under the beach road that
right.
That's the intermittent stream I was talking about. Yeah. Drains those lots right under the beach road into the swamp. Well, anyway,
Ron, that's riverfront. It's riverfront,
what's riverfront?
the inlet.
Oh, yeah, but we're down from the inlet. These lots are down from the inlet. They're west of the inlet.
They're west of the inlet. I'm not sure how far, but the other thing is he bought two lots that are not, he doesn't have enough acreage.
I don't know what the zoning requirements are, but.
Yeah, and that's why the abutter bought up the middle lot. It's a nightmare. And
Yeah.
I wish Bill Malumphey were on tonight. I thought he was going to be able to be on to.
I talked to him a
explain
few
some of the-
hours ago.
Yeah, one of the lots that this man bought is in the natural heritage and endangered species, most of that lot. And the middle lot, which he needed for the acreage, Bill Malumphey outbid him. So he doesn't even own it. He owns two parcels that with somebody else with the ownership in between. And there's no way that he can meet zoning bylaws now. He doesn't have a quarter of an acre. So he's got real headaches, and the sewer doesn't go that far. And the road doesn't, they never built.
There's no power, there's no sewer, there's
No.
there's not proper frontage for building on that lot. I mean, I think the deadline for him to back out of the auction is February 12th,
It is.
and maybe he will.
And that'll be the best thing that would happen.
And if that happens, he backs out, if they decide to put him on auction again, you'll have the same problem. But if
Well, I think you can I think Bill Malumphey can work on the town to put them into to not sell them, put them into another chapter 97 or something to protect them.
we can do that too, just like we're doing with 142.
Right, because it was all a part of Nordine Swamp at the time. It's all part of the Richmond Fen.
Yeah.
And,
like
there's definitely a hydrological connection. The access road just went through that end of the swamp.
Yeah, that was a swamp before they put the access road in.
That's right.
So it's not a good thing, but that's what the status is. And Bill actually owns that lot. He said he paid it off. He's bought it, that middle lot.
Yeah, that middle lot. That's right.
He owns it now. He closed on it. So those people have to make a decision if they just want to delineate and move ahead or just back out of the.
I hope they just I just hope they don't pay the Friday is their threshold for paying what they need to pay for it.
Yeah.
And so hopefully they can just walk away and lose the down payment fee of $200 or something.
Yeah.
But Bill outbid them by much more than it was worth, but just to to stop him.
They didn't
from
know what they
being
were
able to
buying.
build. Huh?
They didn't know what they were buying. They bought a lot of lots.
No, he didn't know what he was buying.
Yeah,
Had no clue.
yeah. And what Bill told me, that guy is also the guy who's trying to develop that solar field off of Churchill Road at the end of that residential street. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what Bill was telling me. That's the same guy.
Well, he's apparently got a lot of big, heavy equipment, and he's one of these people that just goes in and bulldozes, and then looks to get permission. So we need to keep a close eye on this one. But hopefully, it'll all by Friday. Friday comes and goes, and he hasn't paid the balance. He's out of it anyhow.
Okay, enough of that. Just want everybody to know what's going on there. That was a very interesting exercise for a few of us. Okay, citizen speak time, Concom speak time, press speak time. Only people left are the Concom or Mr. Drew. Are you representing somebody or interested in a particular topic here, Mr. Drew? You're still on? Let me unmute you. Jeez. I asked to unmute. They don't let me unmute this thing very easily, I'll tell you. Mr. Drew, did you unmute yourself? They won't let me do it. You still there? He's gone. He disappeared from view. I don't know who he was representing, but or what he was interested in. But he got off of Zoom. All right, we'll just move on then. Unless somebody in the Concom has something they want to bring up. Well, if not, then we'll go to item 12. There's two items there. One is the FY22 Concom budget, which I've been working on. I have to get it in about a week. And Shep, I sent you the spreadsheet on that.
Yep.
You thought, and the comments I'd be looking for would be the quantities, and I think most of the items are there. I got the input from MACC for membership fees, but
Yep, for
and
conference fees too. We're coming up on another conference.
they're all in there.
Okay.
They're all in there.
Yeah, I'll get that for you on Thursday, Ron.
Okay, and no big deal, but I'm putting in budget. Matter of fact, I can, so Harley doesn't ask any more questions here. Let them know what's in there for budget line items. Obviously, the agent salary's in there, but we don't determine the pay rate. That's up to the Board of Selectmen. Basically, MACC membership is in there for permanent and associate members. And conferences are in there, and registration, and if there's travel involved. Because usually the spring conference always been held at Holy Cross. And so I have travel in there, and for the time being, I'm going to leave it there for a couple people. Then I have a line on it for member special training. I think we sent Adam to a special course a few years ago, so I always leave something in there for that. I'll also have a budget line item for commission lecture dinner. I wanted to do that this year. Maybe we still will if we can. COVID may restrict it, but would love to have to get the team together and invite other Concons and bring in a lecturer on the science subject or whatever related to our business. And we probably have to pay for a lecturer if we use somebody outside the DEP or ourselves. And I'd like to see somebody outside the DEP do that. Then I had put a line items in there for recording of enforcement orders. And that was a new requirement last year, and Shep, you ought to double check that. Recording of enforcement orders would come out of our operating budget as opposed to the revolving fund. Revolving fund, we pay for a lot of things, and we do not have to pay for lawyers out of the revolving funds that are accumulated fees. They come out of the town council's budget. So We, and I double checked that with town administration last week. You know, we've been using them for the DCR U Drive thing, and we've been using them for the Rose Pond issues for a little bit. But those monies are being paid for out of the town council budget. And they might ask for us to give them some money at some point and take it, but we don't have a large budget, so I'm sure they won't be able to get up to from us. And then we have the agent cell phone, but Shep is using his own phone. Somebody else is paying for him, so we're not putting anything in for there. And agent expenses, we're not putting anything there, but I'm leaving the line item there to remind people that's where it would belong. Now we have two different revolving accounts, one for wetlands protection and one for scenic mountain. And that's where the fees are collected. When people put in applications and they get collected in there. And
Why don't you should buy Shep a internet connection that works.
I second that motion.
Wait, the phone is, look, it's working perfectly now. Maybe we had too many people.
Well,
so I have a question coming up. I know we're coming up on, this has to do sort of with the budget. It's a money question anyway. We're coming up on the deadline for town warrant articles, right, for the town meeting. And I know that every year we ask for some amount of money to be put into our fund.
That's what I'm talking about here.
Well, I mean, for the land acquisition fund.
Oh, the conservation fund.
Right,
I haven't got an answer on that yet. I asked about that. I said we'd want to put the same amount in. We used to get like 10,000 a year on the warrant for the conservation fund. Last year they hit to 400, I think, without our consulting us. So I questioned that with Ms. Danielle, and I haven't got an answer on that yet.
So I think we should start from a position of strength. We've depleted our fund quite a bit when we bought the Perry Peak property for the town. I think we ought to go for a position of negotiating strength, ask for 25 grand right out of the blocks and let them come to a lower number if they want to. I mean, seriously.
Unfortunately, we're not even in the loop, and that's what I'm complaining about. They didn't even consult us when they did conservation fund thing last year.
Well, anybody can ask to put an article on. We can write it, and we can put the $25,000 number in it with the rationale for it. And if they want to, bring it down from there, maybe we'll end up at 15.
I asked for the 10,000, but I understand what you're saying.
If you want to get 10, you better ask for 40.
I don't think our finance committee operates that way.
But it doesn't hurt to ask, and I think it's legitimate. I'm not just throwing out numbers. I mean, we spent $125,000 of money that was collected over all these years, and we're in an environment where, with climate change coming on us, the severe storms, the competition, because of the pandemic in some ways, for land prices have gone up. We need to be in a position where that fund is going to be helpful should the opportunity arise that it needs to be used. And that's the reason why I'm saying that we need to really beef that fund up as quickly as we can. And, for a town this size with a budget of $4 million or whatever it is, assets of over $4 million, it doesn't seem like it's a lot to ask, especially when you're talking about something that's near and dear to all of the citizens here. Our community is our community because we love to protect our rural and natural scenic values. And the only way that we can participate in that is, in some ways, is through that fund. So I don't think I'm being frivolous here.
And nobody said you were, but we've, one of the things the town was considering, but they don't think there's much chance of it going through, is a Community Preservation Act thing, which would kind of replace the Conservation Fund. It would be pretty much managed by Conservation, but Shep's familiar with it, but to get that through in this town, it's like getting the Camp Marion White thing through. It might be very difficult. But it's a good program, and it's working for a lot of towns, but it's putting a hit on the taxpayers of 1% or whatever, 2% on the tax bill. And
1, 2, or 3%. of the assessed value of a resident's property over the first 100,000.
Right. And to conflict with that, and that was next item on the agenda, the Municipal Building Committee, there's going to be an article on the warrant to fund that municipal building. And that's going to be not a major tax increase, but it's probably akin to the one we had for the school. The school is going to be paid off this year, so this would replace it. So there will be a delta of that just because of the cost of living and cost of construction. But we're all trying to push the new building. And I don't know if any of you have attended the briefings, but they're still having them. And you can check on the newsletter when they are, but I hardly encourage you to listen to it. I'm all for the new building. The place they're operating out of now is a dump, and the library is being rented, and it is way too small. And we have no common meeting area, not common social area relative to for anybody in town to use. And
Well,
that's
there is
part-
that bench at Reservoir Road.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm all for it, and you guys, I encourage you guys to vote for it in town meeting. But that's your choice, obviously. And they got a nice plan, and they whittled the cost down, and et cetera, et cetera. So if you haven't seen that now, John, you can't vote, but it'll affect your
Right.
property taxes.
I was a voter, but now I'm not a voter. There was a lot of complications in living in two places.
Yeah, you can only be a resident in one place, so.
One at a time.
Yeah, right. It's not like the Florida people that don't pay any income tax up here when they only stay up here one day less than 6 months, so they don't pay any income tax.
John, you don't live in Richmond anymore?
Yes and no.
He has the camp. He owns the land.
We pay the taxes, we got a house, but I can only live in one house at a time.
Right.
Where's the other?
Waynesboro.
Oh.
An,
Gotcha.
an exciting town to the north.
20 minutes.
So
22
anyway,
minutes.
I am encouraging a vote for that warrant article when it comes up, but I also, if you haven't listened to the briefing they're given, they've got a pretty good one. Lasts about 45 minutes. And you can ask all the questions you want at the end, but it'll give us a better place to work as well as a lot of people. And give us more capabilities in town relative to the library and social meeting places. And there's a lot of people in town that take advantage of the existing town hall, and Shep will vouch for the fact that you got a lot of Tai Chi classes and yoga classes going on right outside of his office, and dance classes and whatever. It's not a very
Thanks, Ron, for the plug.
good. So
Muted, I don't know.
No, I'm.
anyway,
It's not coming up yet.
it's about time. The town needs this building.
I don't know why.
Take it up for too long.
You can be muted.
No, I don't.
Thank you, Ron, for the plug.
Okay.
Keep it up.
And I think all the boards are doing the same thing as I'm doing. They're all being encouraged. Okay, that's all I have, and nobody else had anything, so I'm gonna move to adjourn. The next meeting scheduled for March the 9th, 2021. All in favor? All in favor to,
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
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 not a roll call.
Aye, 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 aye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night, John boy.